morning, everyone. Welcome to March Road. I'm joined this morning by Bruce Elliott. He is a professor of history at Carleton University, and he's also the volunteer historian for the Penny's Point Foundation. Thanks so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for inviting me.
So what is the importance of these corners?
Well, March Corners, or South March, was the institutional and commercial focal point of the old township of March, going right back to the earliest days of settlement. The initial settlement in the old township was the colony of officers and gentlemen down on the Ottawa riverfront, which is represented today by Penny's Point Historic Site, where the original church in the township was built in 1827. But the bulk of the population lived in the interior, and so the bishop wanted another church built inland. And the local people couldn't afford to do that in the early years. So in 1828, they did build a log schoolhouse just up the road here on the site of the present third school. And that served a multitude of functions as a church, a town hall, a school, and the evolving road network then focused in on that location. The first general store opened up near the school in 1832 on this side of the road. We're not 100% sure it was on this site, but it was the second husband of the original storekeeper's widow who sold this property to his sister in 1840. And she was the wife of the sort of quintessential early Canadian starving artist, Robert Sproul, who's well known for his early views of Montreal. And he needed to storekeep in order to feed his growing family. And so he kept store on the wooden building that was the earlier store on this site in the early 1840s and died here in 1845. His widow sold the store to David McMurtry in the late 1860s, and it was Mr. McMurtry who replaced it with the present stone building in 1882.
And this stone building actually survived a fire.
Yes, it was the sole building at the corners to actually survive a big fire that destroyed all the other buildings in September of 1897. They were all wooden buildings, but this one survived because it was stone. It had some roof damage, but McMurtry sold it to the Gow family, who repaired it and ran it as a store until 1938.
Now, almost 10 years ago now, why was it so important to the city to preserve this building and undergo the relocation process? Well,
the building had been acquired in the early 1980s by the owners of Mr. B's restaurant on Bank Street near Hunt Club. They thought it would be a wonderful rural location for country dining. And they made the bread and butter of their business actually from the lunch trade, from the high-tech industry that was growing here. And it was the growing traffic for that burgeoning industrial area that eventually spelled potential doom for the building. It became clear that March Road was going to have to be widened, and the building would either have to be moved or it would have to go. But because it's kind of a visual anchor for the old corners here and an example of continuity with the past in a growing suburban area, the city of Ottawa purchased it in 2003 and made the decision to actually move it back 30 meters in order to retain it.
Exactly. Thank you so much for chatting with us today. There it is, a brief history of March House in a nutshell for you. Thank you so much, Bruce.
You're very welcome.